go. Who has an example of the last time they learned something? Who shared the last time they learned something? Nobody has ever learned anything ever.
It's just not the most fun out of the questions.
All right, I can respect that. Who can think right now about the last time that they learned something? Yeah, right there.
The noise is really loud. You mentioned a word, benign machism.
Benign masochism.
Oh, I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, benign masochism. We just learned something new, right? Benign masochism is when you do something that hurts a little bit, but not too much, and you're doing it because you know you're enjoying it. So for example, when you work out to exhaustion, it doesn't actually feel all that good to work out to exhaustion, but you're doing it because you know that it will feel good later, right? When you eat a spicy pepper, it doesn't necessarily feel good when you're eating that spicy pepper, but then you get the sort of after effects of eating that spicy pepper, and that feels really good, right? That's benign masochism. So we learned something new. All right, how about the last time you were personally creative? Who has a last time they were personally creative? Yeah, right here.
Last night, I wrote up a bunch of backstories for D&D characters.
There you go. So you were engaging in some DM behavior. Yeah, writing up backstories for D&D characters, creative for yourself and for your players, yeah? Yes. Another example? Great.
Also last night, I was actually programming a new game I'm working on right now. It's like to get ready for capstones and everything. So it's
great.
Senior
computer coding and solving bugs that came out and problems that came out. Yeah, all right. How about number 3? A person you know who makes their living doing something creative.
Is it working? Yeah. One of my best friends wants to be a singer and actress, and she goes to another college where she's always like acting like other characters and really getting into it.
Great, yeah. So learning how to act and being a student and acting in plays. Other thoughts? Yeah, here.
I have a family friend who has been on Broadway for years and is getting more into film.
Great.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking.
Awesome. So a family friend who's on Broadway getting more into film. Yeah.
I have a friend who's an interior designer.
Interior designer, right? So making design and aesthetic choices about their clients, for their clients, with their clients. Anybody else? Okay, and then how about your favorite, most creative musician? Who has an example of a creative musician that they love? Yeah?
Mine would be a little older, but Vivaldi, based
Vivaldi?
on classical. Yeah.
Yeah, why do you think Vivaldi's particularly creative? Vivaldi's a classical composer from the late 1800s.
I would say just the range of music that he does, from like true to form classical to then choral music that he does as well.
Yeah, so a wide range of genre and a wide range of type within the sort of classical composition world that he was living in at the time. Yeah, great. Other examples of creative musicians?
One of my favorite artists right now is called The Stupendium.
Okay.
He makes a lot of nerdcore music, and
Okay.
I think you have to be pretty creative to take a world that has already been set and creatively turn that into music, especially if it's a video game world, whatever he's interpreting, that like has nothing to do with humans and like is so far out of the realm of imagination. To be able to make that into like a catchy song about that world is really interesting.
Yeah, taking the confines of a sort of predetermined world and turning it into another art form, music. Any other favorite creative musicians? One more over here, yeah. Hold it closer to your mouth, that's always better.
We both said Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, yeah. So what is it about Taylor's creativity that you were thinking about?
It's just like I don't know. I think she's a really good songwriter. I know she gets like bashed on vocals, but I like just like her songwriting just relates to so many different people and like from so many different places, and she has a very like wide reach, just like worldwide.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's sort of most creative ability that people talk about is her ability to take a very specific scenario with really evocative details and make it feel universal to a huge range of people, right, who may not have necessarily undergone that one specific scenario, but can relate it back to something that's happened in their own life, right? That's why she's one of the most popular musicians in the world. So these 4 different questions that I ask you all relied on your own definition of creativity, right? You all had to think about, well, what is it that I think about when I think about creativity? So we had some actors and some performers. We have musicians who make the specific universal and musicians who take pre-existing properties and turn them into music. We had somebody who does aesthetic design for clients, and then we had also people being creative in their own coding experiences and learning new vocabulary terms. So the way that psychologists conceptualize and research creativity relies on a 2-part definition that all of us sort of understand intrinsically, but we really want to make specific if we're going to study whether or not something is creative. And that definition is that the product is both new, meaning not done before, and appropriate, meaning it answers whatever question you're asking it to answer. So the question can be something like, how do you make the specific universal? Or how can I express myself through my clothing choices? It doesn't have to be a big question or even all that specific of a question, but if you're going to define something as a creative act, it has to be both new and appropriate. So if I were to ask you to cook me a creative dinner, and you handed me a bowl of succulents, that is certainly new, right? That is not something that most people would give me if I asked them to make me a creative dinner. However, it's not actually creative because it's not appropriate. It doesn't fulfill the confines of what I've asked you to do for me because I can't eat a bowl of succulents. They'll probably poison me. Definitely can't eat a bowl of succulents. Not going to happen. So it doesn't fulfill the necessity to be creative, right? It's new but not appropriate. Similarly, if I were to ask you to make me a creative car, a car that shows us that you have creativity, and you use a well-known wheel style, like a stone wheel or a wooden wheel or a rubber tire, that is also not creative. Because even though it's appropriate, right, it fulfills the confines of the creative task, make me a car, it is not new because we've had these wheels for a really long time. To the point where the saying like reinventing the wheel means that you're not actually being creative. So when we're talking about creativity, you need to fulfill both of these components from a psychological perspective. You both have to do something new and it has to be appropriate to the problem. Often this means that people get stuck in thinking, if I'm going to be creative, I have to change the world. But creativity is actually, in psychology and in psychological science, conceptualized as a 4-stage construct. There's 4 different levels to creativity. The one that we most often think about is called Big C. Big C is world-changing creativity. A domain before this creative person or creative product existed, and a domain after this person and product existed is completely different. So something like the iPhone is definitionally a Big C creative product because cell phones before the iPhone and cell phones after the iPhone are 2 different things. Modern art before Pablo Picasso, modern art after Pablo Picasso, 2 different things. History will judge whether Taylor Swift has absolutely changed the field of pop music, but I would make an argument that she's doing a pretty good job of it so far, right? Pop music before Taylor Swift and after Taylor Swift, fairly different things. So Big C creativity is when we talk about creative genius, that's what we're talking about. The next level down from that is called Pro C creativity, or professional level creativity. This is a porous boundary between big C creativity and Pro C creativity. Somebody can work their whole lives in Pro C creativity and sort of toil away and only after the fact be considered to be world-changingly creative, right? This often happens to classical music composers, right? Beethoven died penniless, like without a lot of, he had some professional success, but not all of it. Mozart had lots and lots of professional success, right? But we now sort of consider Beethoven and Mozart to be relatively on the same level, although classical music people, please don't at me. So Pro C creative means that you are making a living at your creativity, that it is your job and people are paying you to be creative. The next level down is something that I hope all of you engage in with relative frequency. This is everyday creativity, or little c creativity. This can mean everything from making greeting cards to your friends, coding a computer game, making yourself a meal that you haven't made before, picking your outfit when you get up in the morning, trying on a new makeup look or a new hairstyle. This is the kind of creativity that's associated with well-being, with positive mental states, and with ability to be resilient and cope with difficulties when they arise in your environment. This is your everyday, just doing it for yourself and maybe a few friends creativity, and it can take lots and lots and lots of different forms. The last form of creativity is something that we all engage in a lot when we're little, and then it sort of slows down over time, but it never has to stop. And that's mini C creativity. Mini C creativity is learning creativity. So for example, if I were to ask all of you to imagine what would happen right now if you went home, opened up your refrigerator, and smashed all your eggs on the floor. Don't do that, that's expensive. But if you were to imagine doing that, you can sort of picture what that would look like, right? What it would feel like to drop the eggs, what it would sound like when the eggs hit the floor, what it would look like as they spattered across your kitchen. However, a toddler has never done that before, which is why toddlers do things like take crayons and draw all over your walls, open up your refrigerator, and smash your eggs all over the ground, because they're learning something new about the world, and they're being creative in the ways in which they're doing it, right? As we get older and we gain more experience about the world, we engage in fewer and fewer creative learning acts because we know more and more about the world that we're in. However, anytime you learn something new, whether it's learning how to ice skate or ride a bicycle as an adult. I didn't learn how to ride a bike till I was 25 years old. I didn't learn how to swim until I was 19, right? So whether it's learning something new as an adult or whether it is trying to pick up a new skill as a young child, this is considered to be mini C learning creativity.